Hey guys, how you doing today? I'm actually having trouble mustering up the sort of psychic energy to actually do this video. So sorry if I'm a bit of a downer this time about. Been thinking about is it pronounced Kenosha? The Kenosha shooter, this Kyle fella in Wisconsin. I'm just thinking about how he's something of an inevitability, right? That we thought those school shooters were going to stay in school. Like, nope, that's not going to happen. School shooters are going to find their way out into the streets. They're going to start shooting protesters. Um, I've actually been expecting that. I've been waiting for that to happen. What has been a touch surprising, and I guess I shouldn't have been that surprised, but what has been a bit surprising is how the right wing has leapt to the defense of this 17-year-old who came from out of state with a weapon with the intention to kill people, which he achieved. Um, the this situation has really revealed completely now that uh, people on the right are sociopaths. They are not interested in the truth. They're not interested in facts or history or evidence or any of that. They're interested in killing people who they don't like. They are interested in the destruction of the environment. They're interested in the destruction of the civil society. They are interested in the destruction of their own neighborhoods, right? This is what they want because it gives them the final excuse to enslave and destroy and murder who they choose. And the ideology that's going on throughout the states now is the strong will survive. And here in Canada, it has definitely infected our right-wing party, the Conservative Party, which has become a fascist party. It hasn't been completely taken over by the fascists yet, but the current people who are in charge are so heavily right wing, and like the current leader who got elected, this Aaron O'Toole, he did it by selling out to the what's called the social conservatives, the racists and the bigots in his party. And so the racists and the bigots and the sociopaths are taking over. And when that happens, you start to see a kid like this Kyle, who is clearly a murderer and clearly a sociopath, who chooses to shoot innocent people whose crime is protesting their government. Uh, and for this, he gets high-fived by the police. For this, he gets defended by right-wing news sources who are now actively fomenting a civil war, right? While the left has been in protest, it has at least been attempting to seek resolution, and it has been at least attempting to seek a path forward. But it seems as though now the right's solution is to simply murder them. And this kind of thing can happen in Canada. It can. And it will begin to if we don't actively pursue policies that actually benefit the populace and begin to take power away from the capitalist class. Because it's become very clear that the capitalist class does not operate in our best interests. It's become very obvious that the capitalist class is essentially a group of plunderers. For God's sakes, you've got Elon Musk making brain chips now. Like, I mean, can things get more dystopian and more ridiculous? And they will. They will. Absolutely. Like, you have these tech wizards, and are they spending time finding improvements to the society? Are they spending time finding better ways to use energy or any of that? No, they're making chips to enslave people. That's what they're doing, and they're doing it openly. These people should have their power removed. It really is that simple. Like, the reason why the election between Biden and Trump is such a fiasco is because it doesn't actually confront this issue, which is that we fundamentally understand and we know that the capitalists have fucked everything up and are continuing to fuck everything up, and refuse to actually acknowledge that they have fucked everything up because they're narcissists and sociopaths, right? They are incapable of apology. They're incapable of acknowledging that they have done wrong. The solution is full-scale banishment, that they need to have their power stripped, and any electoral party that is going in and is not actively saying capitalists need to have their power stripped, we need to remove them as figures in the public sector at all. They need to cease having influence in the public, or at the very least they need to have their influence diminished to maybe their block, maybe, or their house at best. These sociopathic nightmare murderers who rise up in defense of another sociopathic murderer who killed 2 people on the streets of Kenosha in Wisconsin, they need to have their power removed. And if a politician is not saying that, then they're siding with the sociopaths. And that is where we are, because there's no longer a middle ground. There is no middle ground when the conversation is, should we murder citizens in the street or not? Should we abandon citizens or not? The conservative position is, yes, we should abandon people. We should abandon millions of people. We should evict them. Here in Canada, this is the Conservative Party's position. Just recently, Aaron O'Toole came out with a statement saying that he didn't like the way the Liberals handled the pandemic, and he had some sort of pithy thing to say about, oh, he should have put it through EI instead of through this or that. And in the end, what he is actually saying is we shouldn't have given money directly to people. We should have given them to businesses who then should have given it to people. Forget about the fact that what businesses would have done is laid off those people anyway, because business is down, right? Like, you're going through a lockdown. And I mean, it just goes to show that the Conservative Party doesn't care about human life, right? It cares about business, and it cares about their business associates. They literally do not value human life. If it would make them $1, they would execute a baby. Like, this is where I'm at with these conservatives. And I'm furious. I'm furious that anyone would actually rise up and even begin to attempt to defend this Kyle. I don't even know his last name. Like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it to know Kyle, right? This sociopathic murderer. And his defenders in the right-wing media. And it's exactly like that. For me, it's exactly like what happened when the lockdowns began, when we went into the pandemic. There were people who were saying outright that we shouldn't pass the CERB, that we should just abandon people to homelessness and starvation in the middle of a pandemic. That was when I realized that we live in a death cult, and that the Conservative Party is part of that death cult. And many of the Liberal Party members are also members of the death cult. And now we're having another moment where we're realizing the grotesque insanity of the death cult, right? A 17-year-old kid murdered 2 people in the streets, and we're supposed to think that that's good. If you think that's the case, then you are a member of the death cult. This kid should spend the rest of his life in prison. He should be tried as an adult. First-degree murder, 2 counts first-degree murder, and he should spend the rest of his life in prison. And anyone who stands up and celebrates him as a hero is admitting that they are sociopathic and in support of the death of innocent children. This is what we're talking about here. Like, why is it that no one defends school shooters, but when the school shooters take to the streets, suddenly oh, suddenly he's a hero. Oh, interesting. People who are protesting for their rights, protesting for their freedom, protesting for basic things like healthcare, and you gun them down in the streets. And this is going to elevate, right? This is going to escalate. If this 17-year-old kid is not punished to the full extent of the law, it means that, and I mean, it might be too late for this, but the protests are not going to stop because of this. It just means that the protesters are going to come armed, because they are not going to back down. They want their rights. They want their freedoms. They want to live in a society that actually takes care of them and that actually treats their issues seriously. They want these things for themselves and for their children. They want the things that other countries figure out how to provide legislatively without civil wars, right? There's something fundamentally wrong in the psyche of Americanism and in America. There's just something fundamentally, it's like a mental illness at this point. And it's manifested in its worst state in the right wing, which is clearly fascist, clearly, and is obviously attempting to take power through force. The strong will survive, right? That's the statement. That's the only statement they've made. And everything else is just clashing gongs and banging cymbals. It's nonsense. Nonsense that they say to continue pretending like they actually have an interest in resolving this peaceably. The only way the right wing will accept peaceful resolution is if the entire society gives up and bows the head and begins to act out of obedience. These people need to be abandoned. They need to be banished. Not to homelessness or starvation, because we're better people than they are, obviously. We don't want the same fate that they would inflict on the rest of us. We'll take care of their food and shelter, but certainly they need to be banished from the public eye. Here in Canada, the States doesn't have, you can stand up and actually say we should murder people. I have a next door neighbor, we should murder him. You can say that in the States. You can't say that in Canada or across Europe. You're not allowed to stand up and utter death threats to people. You're not allowed to say, oh, we should round up people. There was a person here in Toronto that was passing around pamphlets talking about how we should round up the Jews. He spent a year in prison, rightfully, right? You cannot stand up and utter death threats against people. That's not free speech. Inciting violence is not free speech. But in the States it is, right? So you can say what you want, but it's only after you've actually executed someone that any legal force can be brought against you. That's a massive problem, right? We should live in a society where if police officers threaten you with violence, that's a crime, and people should go to jail for that, right? Especially police officers, right? If a police officer threatens you with violence, they should go to jail. Because that's not self-defense. You're not fighting back, right? If you're uttering death threats against someone, you are the aggressor. It's just so sad watching the United States collapse into civil war. And that's obviously what it is. It's just so sad to watch it happen. And it's so sad to see this repugnant, hateful, sociopathic ideology infect my own country. And to see my own countrymen fall prey to this ruthless brutality and evil ideology that says that we should abandon people, and if they can't, and if they begin to protest and fight back, then we should gun them down in the streets. That's the end of me, guys. Dark days ahead. Dark days ahead. I hope you're all doing well out there. I hope you're finding friends. I hope you're having some laughs. Like, share, subscribe, make a comment. It makes me feel good about myself. Have a good night, guys.